Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. As always, welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. My name is Reverend Rich, and I'm so glad you're here. And again, we've had some technical issues. Again, I'm using a home studio, so we do the best we can in the time constraints and things like that. And we continue our book study on the book "You Deserve This Shit." And again, it's about unlocking your potential and becoming unstuck. And I think that was what drew me to the book because I was going through a time where I left one project and then got thrown into a whole bunch of other ones. And I think whatever you want to say, God, universe, whatever, was trying to show me or have me realize is that I did have or I was good enough, but I didn't think so. So this book has truly helped me in that fashion so that now an opportunity came in, I was able to give an honest answer and not worry whether I'm good enough or whether I deserve it or not or whether they deserve me or not. It was a choice that I made. And it's based a lot on this book and the next book, which I'm thinking of doing. And again, I say thinking because I'm one of those people that I'll get ready to do episode one. And all of a sudden it's like something else came up that I think works better. And it's a book called You Are the Mountain. And it's all about self-sabotage. Great book. A lot of things I learned from it, but that's another book story. So, like I said, today we're going to work on the next two. Last week we worked on forming a routine. We talked about make the book, just make your bed and things like that, and the power of positive thinking. Today we're going to talk about how your network can elevate your life, so the people around you, and the importance of choosing your lifestyle. Next week we'll be tapping on the last two of this section of living intentionally, of building a system to support your goals, and how your life is only as big as your aspirations. And I love that section because it kind of reminds me of a book I read by Gay Hendricks. I think it's called The Big Leap, where he says we set this ceiling because that's all we expect, not knowing that there is just so much potentiality after that. But let's stick to the subject today. So we're going to go with, first, we're talking about networking. And we're cultivating valuable relationships. I do love the quote from the book. He says, if you are familiar with Tim Ferriss, who is an entrepreneur, podcaster, and author of several New York bestsellers like The 4-Hour Work Week, then you may know that he ends every episode of the Tim Ferriss Show with a very specific question. If you could have one billboard anywhere and it could say anything, what would it be? And the author goes off to say, I would create several billboards, one for each of the themes that he's working on. However, not in the rules of the game, and I don't feel like bending them right now. But when you think about it, life is just one big referral. So what we're talking about here is the relationships that we keep within ourselves. My daughter on Tea Time Truth Talk, excuse me. She's surprised that, as someone as me, I'm a true introvert. I love being alone. And when I mean alone, I don't mean alone. I mean, I'm not the crowd person. I enjoy my family time. I enjoy my time with my wife. I enjoy my time with those people that come to me one-on-one. I enjoy my time with, if I'm speaking in front of a church or something, or I'm working with a meeting. Those are great times to have, but I just don't have to go out and look for it. But when I started saying I needed people for a podcast or I needed that, she saw people coming out of the woodwork. Why? Because I cultivated relationships from long ago and doing things for them, knowing that if they called me at a minute's notice, we may not have spoken for 10 years. Hey, Rich, I need something. And if it's in my power to do so, I will do it. And those relationships have helped me out. So when we talk about relationships, is we want to look for the valuable and intentional relationships. So I'm going to read from the author here where he says, these valuable and intentional relationships are the types you can pick up like you saw each other yesterday and have conversations that explore the most genuine part of your life. And I just spoke about that. My brother was one. I've been kind of estranged from my family except for my mother and my dad who come over. And my brother at one point said, enough's enough. I need to go see my brother. And they drove from their town, and I haven't been out of mobile because I've been working from home and everything else going on. And they came out here, and we saw each other, we hugged each other, but we picked up and joking like we had been talking to each other every week, And I've done that with other people in my relationship. And those are the people that you want to keep in your wheelhouse. There's a book I remember, can't remember the author's name, but I remember it was You Want to Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. And it talks about the people that you want to have in your life. And that's what's important here. So some of the things he talks about is give without expecting anything in return. I've had this talk with many people because, people would come and say, hey, can I borrow money? And of course you lend it, and then all of a sudden they come back and it's like, I don't got it, I don't got it. And you have this expectation. But when, I'm only talking about money, this works with everything. When I started changing my philosophy going, okay, I have the money to give. So that's the first question I have to ask myself. I'm giving the money to this person. Now, I'm not telling the person this. The person's like, oh, I'll pay you back next Tuesday. Okay, great, no problem. I gave it without expectation. So what happens Tuesday when he doesn't pay me back, or like a lot of people don't have the respect or the strength to, because sometimes you feel embarrassed. I've been there. I know what it feels like. And they don't pay you back that Tuesday. Guess what just happened? My expectation was I gave it away. But if it comes back to me, it's a blessing. And it may not come back from that person. It may show up in my life some other way. And that's where one of the things I always want. So when it comes to it, and like I said, I use money as an example, but it's not just money. If I give love, if I give time, I give friendship, lesson, somebody wants to learn something from me, I have no problems. I shared with you, I had a young lady come to me about a website, and she was adamant she wanted to pay me something. I gave her the website with the expectation of I did the work, and it's going to help you help other people. Why am I worrying about it? But she gave me a love offering, and I'm grateful for it. But I gave without expectation. Now, of course, every businessman out there is probably right now yelling, well, how do you live off your business and blah, blah, blah. And they're right. That's something I had to work on. And that's part of why I read this book. But it is when you can go in without expectations that you begin to cultivate relationships, because sooner or later somebody's going to come back around, be like, guess what I learned, or guess what I have, and I want to share that with you. So imagine if you cultivate that with your friends, your family, with people around you, and I said this in one of my other talks, I'd rather have, if a $1 bill is my level of friendship, I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. And that's because I like to keep I want to keep my circle small enough with people who are individuals. That doesn't mean that people outside of that circle I'm not going to interact with, but I do know that the ones that are in that circle are my intentional relationships. Show others that you care. That's self-explanatory. Anybody who knows me knows I will bend over backwards to help you. Sometimes a little too much. That's a whole other book. But the point here is that you want to show people you care, even if it's just empathy. And if nobody has told you this, I'm going to give you a quick lesson I used to give every one of my call center people. There's a difference between empathy and sympathy. If somebody's going through something bad and you're sitting there going, oh, I'm so sorry, blah, 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 this and that. When I hear I'm so sorry, what I hear is that it sucks to be you. I'm good. But when you can empathize and say, hey, I've been in your shoes. I know what you're going through. Yeah, I can help you with that. Or even, hey, I've never been in your shoes. I don't know what you're going through, but I'm here for you. That's empathy. So even show if you care with empathy. It could be a meal. It could be a cup of coffee. Just something. It could be a smile. Just showing somebody you care. Find commonalities and determine how you can use them to grow with an individual. I like to use the term, and it's not my term. I've gotten this from my talks. It's called shared vision. And what I mean by a shared vision is that I find people who maybe I'm not strong enough in that area, but I find people with the strengths in those areas so that I can support them in that area and they can support me in the areas I need work. But together we found a common vision. So commonalities can be, hey, we like stuff. I love being a unity minister because it opens me up to be able to speak to everybody. I remember doing an interfaith service. My daughter went to Singap, and we had a Catholic priest, a Protestant minister, we had a rabbi, we had, myself as the unity representative, we had somebody from the Unitarian church. And we sat there and we did this service. And I missed those services because of how all these different religions came together and we had one vision. We all spoke on love. And I was still a ministerial student, so it was funny how after I spoke, I had the Catholic priest who talked about having 20 and 30 years of experience was quoting me. I'm like, wait, hold on. But that shows that commonality has no barriers. If you can find that commonality, and that for that specific service was love. So go out and find commonalities with the people around you and connect with them. Because when that energy is joined together, you imagine what you guys can do. Finally, connect with people even if you believe you won't get something from it. If you're, again, this goes back to expectations. If your expectation is always, well, I want to talk to this person because I'm going to get XYZ. No, connect to people. You never know what you may end up getting, even if you don't. And if it is just a conversation, it's fine. I used to make jokes because I used to ride the trains in New York late night. Even as a teen when I was dating a young lady and I'd be leaving Brooklyn late at night, or if I was coming home from work when I was working 4 to midnights in Manhattan. I've always rode the trains, and I used to always joke because that train could be empty, but I always seemed to have someone, whether it could have been a homeless person, it could just be a lonely rider, always somehow ended up by me and wanted to talk. Now, remember what I told you at the beginning, I was an introvert, so I wasn't looking for anybody. But they always came over to talk. And sometimes that talk was them telling me their story. But I cared enough to listen. And sometimes that story became part of my story later because I remembered things that were taught to me. So don't always do things because there's something for you in it for you always. Be open enough to say, hey, this person wants to talk to me. This person wants to whatever, and just be there for them. I like what the author says, the intentional living comes from being conscious of your actions and mindful of how you approach different aspects of life. When 5 action items listed above, you can begin to focus on building both current and new relationships. Whether you're struggling to find your path or looking to elevate your current life, relationships are important, an important building block to progress. And I've said this as I'm going through something today where I met a minister who connected me with another minister. I went to work for Silent Unity, which is their 24/7 prayer support line, as a supervisor, and I've met so many people that I only heard about before. So imagine when you could put those 5 things into play, what kind of relationships you truly have around you. And if you remember, the more the positive relationships and the more strengthening the relationships are, the better your life. As well as always remember, never be the smartest person in the room because it gets boring. You want to learn. Finally, choosing your atmosphere. What is your atmosphere like? We talk about what exactly is a lifestyle, changing your lifestyle. So we're going to go through the regular dictionary. It says typically the way of life of an individual, group, or culture. Lifestyle is the combination of your behaviors, your intentions, and your opinions that make up an atmosphere that promotes your most desired way of living. In simplest terms, lifestyle is the way you live, why you live and the manner in which you carry yourself. So that's what's important. So when we choose our lifestyle, we want to make sure that everything's in alignment. So a lot of times, I know I'm talking, and it could be boring. It's like, Rich, I got the book, whatever. But these are things that I can truly tell you have got me thinking and got me doing different things. So one, use weekends to your advantage as much as possible. Now, we all know the song, we're working for the weekend. We think that we're going to put in our hours all week, and then weekend we're looking to do everything. But what can we do to make our lifestyles better? What can we do to change the trajectory of our life on those weekends? If you want to become a better version of yourself, then you should carve out a few hours each day to work on yourself or your craft. Anybody who knows me, I used to love going on the deck, putting on my headphones, have Audible going, and some book. I remember I was listening to Faithlessly Yours, and it was a short audiobook, and I was out on the balcony for a couple of hours. I think it was like 2 hours for the book, and I was smoking a cigar, a cup of coffee, but I learned so much in those 2 hours. Now, most people are like, I don't want to do that. I mean, I should be partying. I should be there. Just carve out a couple hours and just work on you. Walks are cool. Ask Snoop Dogg. Okay. So I love that one because he says Snoop Dogg. So I'll read you the story because I think it was great. He says, a friend once said they didn't go for walks. They believe walks were a complete waste of time. I also once heard a story about a screenwriter and producer, Evan Goldberg, Seth Rogen's better half, and Snoop Dogg, yes, Snoop D-O double G, who were in a room together when Snoop asked Goldberg if he went on walks. Goldberg quickly answered no, and that was when it happened. Snoop Dogg looked at him with the most disappointed expression, as if his own son had let him down. Goldberg said Snoop Dogg's disappointed haunts him to this day. Since that conversation, he takes multiple walks every day and admits it has completely changed his life. First of all, yes, that's a completely true story. Secondly, walks are great to clear your mind, step away from something stressful. This is something that I need to start doing for exercise purposes. But I also have encouraged people, especially when you deal in a very high stress environment, sometimes you just need to walk away. And it's not a bad thing. It's to walk, to get out there, get nature, let the sun hit you, let the moon hit you, whatever time of the day, and get out there and just get some air and just allow you to clear your mind. One of the meditations that, I want to do if I do a meditation retreat, like a 1-day retreat, is walking meditation, because you get to that point where you can quiet your thoughts and just walk and know. Focus on organizing your own life. I mean, I know personally, as busy as I am, when things are cluttered around me, my mind joins the clutter. So you want to organize your life, whether it's using a to-do list. I have to do that because sometimes I've got so much to do in a day, and I work and I do other projects, that I need to have something that just structures me. So you want to start to focus on organizing your life. If your kids are in school, use that time while they're in school to do certain things for yourself as well as the home. As you know, I'm a minister, but I also have my own business, which incorporates my wife and my daughter and everyone in it. And my wife has her own line, which is Nairobi Naturals. And as I tell her, I was like, I know we get home from work, but, write down something, do something, to improve her business. And she's done that. She comes up with recipes and, she's talking to people. And she could be sitting there going, it's not business time. I just want to do this. But because she's done that, there's opportunities that has opened up to her even more. And it's the same thing with me. And it's the same thing I tell my children. Use your mind. Don't always worry about television or the drama or whatever. You guys can be the best you can be when you focus, even if it's an hour a day. Read a book, watch something, watch some inspirational movies. You can always go back to your romances later. You can always go back to your anime later. You can go back to whatever it is. But watch a movie. I took the time to watch Brene Brown on Netflix. Now I found out Brene Brown has a show on another channel that I'm going to have to watch. And her thing is all about surrender. Very powerful stuff. Use your time wisely, organize your time so that you can live and organize your life. It doesn't have to be crazy. We're always going to have simple messes, but it's when it's really out of chaos, we lose ourselves. And finally, what is your eating regimen? Um, you know, some people schedule their eating. I knew a young lady who told me that due to some health issues she had to schedule, breakfast, lunch, dinner, literally as alarms on her phone. And I thought it was crazy at first, but then I realized as time went on, as I got busier, sometimes you need to do that. I had the gastric bypass now 16 years later, and I know how my body has to be fed due to certain things. And when I don't eat, how I feel. So there are times I sit there and go, remembering what she did, go, well, maybe I need to start doing that. Like, bing, okay, I need to stop, figure out something, whatever. And it's not just with eating, it could be meditation in the morning. If you look at my calendar, there's a power hour that says that I am not to pick up my cell phone or do anything during that hour. That's my time to meditate, exercise, and journal and read if possible. I think that's what it was. 20 minutes exercise, 20 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of journaling, 10 minutes of a good book. Yeah, that's it. So, you want to get that in your life. So you definitely want to, make sure that you're taking the time to take care of yourself. So eating regimen. There's also something called mindful eating. I'm very guilty of this. Eating while working, eating while watching television, and I'm speed eating. Probably what got me to my weight in the first place. But when you mindfully eat, you're taking a piece and you're enjoying it. If you haven't had a chance to watch the movie or read the book, is The Peaceful Warrior. And I always remember the scene where the girl brings in lunch for Socrates and Dan starts eating it up and whatever. And Socrates goes, are you going to taste your food at any point? And Socrates is taking one kiwi, putting it in his mouth, one fruit, putting it in his mouth, chewing it, texture. The Japanese have a tradition with this, as well as mindfulness eating brings that up. So again, make that important to you. The work-life integration, again. Work-life integration is making sure that you have time. Now, I'm guilty of this all the way. I used to always be working and doing something because, money never, and, I had more month at the end of the money, so to say. So I was putting in and doing this side jobs, this job, that job, home businesses, this and that, and I never really took time. I'm still busy now, but now you'll see that I'll find time to sit with my kids or talk to my wife and things that I wouldn't do before because I was so worried that I couldn't do it. That's one of the most important things I'll tell you. Don't miss out on life. Make that work-life balance. So there's a few things. Intentional choices and intentional lifestyle should be methodological. Methodical. Thank you. Okay. Assuming that the outcome, both negative and positive, is important. So we want to make decisions. So this is another section of the same thing when we talk about living intentional, as well as creating your atmosphere. And it's one, prepare to choose and remember the why. There is a whole book called First Start With Your Why, which is important. Why are you doing these things? What is it about? And it can't be as easy as I'm doing it for my children. Because guess what? Children grow up and move out. But why is it that you're doing this thing? Evaluate the outcome, benefit, and repercussions. It's think, do, repeat, or think, do, review, as I was taught. You want to think what you're going to do, go out and do it, and then review it. And if you fail forward. Follow through with your choice. Commitment. You guys have heard me talk about this a lot. Commitment is doing the things you said you're going to do long after the feeling in which you said is done. Very important. So when you start something, follow through. Don't worry about the failure point. Don't worry about the fear that's telling you can't do this. Just do it. 9 times out of 10, you'll be successful at it. So go out, intentional relationships, intentional atmosphere. That is what creates your intentional life. So I will see you next week as we begin to build the system and look at how big our lives can be as we continue with the book study, You Deserve This Shit. Glad that you're here today. I really thank you for this. As always, like, subscribe, hit that bell so you know when I drop another video. And as always, love you, nothing you can do about it, and I'll see you on the next episode.